All right, scholars, time to continue with our Module 4 notes. Please make sure you have your name and number at the top. This is going to be Module 4, Lesson 13, Multiplying Unit Fractions. We're building on what we did earlier in the module, multiplying a fraction times a whole number. Now we're going to be multiplying a fraction times another fraction. I'm hoping that you'll see it's very, very similar. It's very, very similar, especially with what we did at the end where we were multiplying the whole number times the numerator, but I'll show you that in just a moment. Our Roman numeral is going to be an x, 10, plus 3 more, 1, 2, 3, so make sure you get that on there. All right, we don't really have any vocabulary or anything, so we'll just jump right into the process. I guess I should say we don't have any new vocabulary. We'll still be talking about numerators and denominators. Okay, step 1. The first thing you're going to want to do, and it is the opposite of what I normally tell you to do. Fractions are going to be a special case. Most of the time we want to write things up and down. We write them vertically, but not with fractions. With fractions, you are going to write the expression horizontally. Now, I guess I should be clear. This is just with fraction multiplication and division. Obviously, when we're adding and subtracting fractions, we still write those up and down. We still write them vertically. Okay? So, if you see a word problem or a phrase, something like this, it says 1/3 of half a cake. Okay? We translate this just like we've been doing before. Remember that anytime we have a fraction of, and some of you caught with our review activities, it's not just fraction of, but if it says as much, 1/3 as much as. Okay. Actually, I closed that up a little too soon. Let's include what that means. Fraction of means multiply. I think most of you folks remember that. So let's go ahead. Fraction of means multiply. Don't forget that. We can rewrite this horizontally as a multiplication expression. 1/3, right? 1/3 of. 1/3 of means 1/3 times 1/2. Now, the process for this, the thing that you're going to remember, and I'll show you why it works, but really all you need to remember is step 2, multiply straight across. Multiply straight across. That's across the top and across the bottom. So, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. I'll use my straight edge to get us a nice straight edge, nice straight line there. Mrs. Fisher got me some new pencils, so now they don't break. As often. Now that I've said that, I've jinxed it. It'll snap 100 times. All right, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. Let's look at what we had up above. Okay, 1/3 times 1/2. Well, 1 times 1. 1 times 1. 3 times 2. 3 times 2. Okay. Our answer is going to be 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 2 is 6. And for the most part, that's it. Now, we'll talk about with step 3, obviously, if we can simplify, we need to do that. We don't really need to in this case. But let me show you very quickly, please copy this down. Let me show you why this works. Let me show you what's happening here. Let's say that I have a delicious, just scrumptious and wonderful cake. Here's my cake. Maybe it's one of those big sheet cakes from Costco. Those are good. Now this whole thing is my cake. And some of you may be thinking, well, this looks a little bit like a sideways tape diagram. You're right. In fact, I could have put it here if I had a little more space. So here's my cake. I only have half of it left. Okay, I only have half of the cake left. I got one of those big Costco cakes. I had a party. My guests devoured half of it. All right, so this part down below is gone. It's just this part right here. Now, that's your 1/2. That, I think, makes sense. What you want to think about is 1/3 of that. Now, the easiest way to see this is to go ahead and divide my cake into thirds. I'm going to adjust this a little bit because it's making it look like my cake goes out further than it does. There we go. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Now, 1/3 of the 1/2 is going to be just this part right here. See, here's 1, 2, 3. I broke the half into thirds. There's one of them. Okay. And I can write that up top, 1/3, so you can see that. 1/3 of the 1/2 is 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overall. Now, this is just a visual to show you what's happening, why we're getting to this. This idea of multiplying. It's kind of like the area models that we were using before. For the most part, all you need to be able to do, number times number, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. Now, I mentioned this earlier for step 3. For step 3, you are going to simplify if possible. Simplify if possible. And record your answer. Record your answer. I'm going into the margins a little bit here, but that's okay. All right. Now, 1/6, it's got a 1 on top. It is a unit fraction. We've talked about those before too. A unit fraction is just a fraction with a 1 on top, basically. Unit fractions usually can't be simplified. I can't think of an example where they would, except maybe 1/1, but you're not going to see something like that. All the same, get in the habit of checking, because as we move forward, you're going to use the same process, and you will need to simplify. 1/3 times 1/2 is equal to 1/6. Box up your answer, do something to make sure it's very clear what your final result is, and that's pretty much it. Now, this is a fairly straightforward process, and again, I'm hoping it looks familiar. You have been doing this kind of thing. So now I'm going to go ahead, we're going to jump down to B. We'll do a couple of examples together, and then we'll continue in class next time I see you. All right. So if I give you half of 1/4 a pan of brownies, because it's all about baked goods today. Okay. Half of a quarter pan, half of 1/4 a pan of brownies. We are going to write this horizontally. 1/2. Fraction of means multiply. Half of 1/4. Just multiply straight across. Numerator times numerator is 1. 2 times 4 is 8. Now, I'm not going to draw the diagram, but if I had drawn a rectangle, cut it in half, and then taken the half and cut it into 4 equal pieces, each of those pieces would be 1/8 of the original pan. All right, let's jump straight to fractions this time. 1/4 of 1/4. I'll write it a little bit bigger this time. 1/4 of 1/4. Well, this is the same as 1/4 times 1/4. Remember, of, fraction of, means multiplication. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 4 is 16. I'll check. It's a unit fraction. I can't divide the top and the bottom by anything, so we're all done. And I am sure that every single one of you remembered, but I'm a little embarrassed to say I forgot to put a box around my 1/8. Let's do that now. Better late than never. All right, this last one I'm going to leave for you to do on your own. When I check your notes, or maybe after I check your notes, we'll see what the class looks like. You can give me your answer. 1/3 of 1/8 of a pie. 1/3 of 1/8 of a pie. 1/3 of 1/8 of a pie. Remember, you are going to need to write this horizontally, multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator, and box up your answer. All right, like I said, I'll leave that one for you. Go ahead and work that out and bring your answer along with any questions to class next time I see you. All right, folks, until then.